Welcome to the English course Teaching Reading from Zero. By the end of the week, you will be able to define the key terms important for teaching reading, plan steps for successful teaching reading, choose and adapt materials for teaching reading, apply various strategies for teaching reading, and organize the process of reading for pleasure. Reading is one of core skills necessary for language acquisition. In natural way, it comes after listening and speaking. Though in Ukrainian system of education, we have to teach reading along with listening, speaking, and writing, having limited time. That's why one of the important tasks for us teachers is to organize the way of teaching reading in a useful and beneficial way. Every one of us learned English at school. Certain course books were used in certain periods. Let's think about the following questions. Which way did you learn how to read in English? Was learning to read a positive or negative experience to you? Do you enjoy reading in English as much as you enjoy reading in your native language? Why or why not? How to start teaching reading to my students? Actually, do we follow any approach in teaching reading to EFL students? Let's discuss. Scientific research has shown how children learn to read and how they should be taught. But many educators don't know the science and, in some cases, actively resist it. As a result, millions of kids are being set up to fail. In the early 1950s, Rudolf Flash offered to tutor a boy who'd been held back in 6th grade because he couldn't read. Flash was horrified to discover that at age 12, Johnny couldn't even decipher a simple word like kid. The problem Flash realized was that no one had taught him how to sound words out or decode. Flash wrote a bestseller called Why Johnny Can't Read, in which he blasted the American education system for failing to teach phonics. And here we are talking about the students whose native language is English. What should we say about EFL students? We have the same problems here in Ukraine. I have the same problem with my students abroad. In his article, Why Johnny Still Can't Read, Martin Cawthron claims that the teachers apparently had no idea how to teach reading. They thought if they could just throw words at the students, they would figure it out. They all had education degrees, but none of them had ever been taught how to teach children to read. There are three the most popular approaches to teaching reading. They are the phonic method, the whole word approach, and the language experience method. The phonics method teaches children to pair sounds with letters and blend them together to master the skill of decoding. The whole word approach teaches kids to read by sight and relies upon memorization via repeat exposure to the written form of a word paired with an image or an audio. The goal of the language experience method is to teach children to read words that are meaningful to them. Vocabulary then can be combined to create stories that the child relates to. This method actually uses students' own words to help them to read, and it is not suitable to teach EFL students, since English is not their native language for the students, and the range of the students' vocabulary is very narrow. Good reading comprehension requires two broad sets of abilities: the ability to quickly and automatically recognize words, and the ability to understand what has been read. Each of these elements, word recognition and language comprehension, includes a set of specific component skills. Word recognition encompasses, among other skills, phonological and phonemic awareness, phonics and decoding skills, automatic recognition of common words, the ability to read common, phonetically irregular words. And of course, we will start teaching reading with this element. Language comprehension encompasses, among other skills, vocabulary knowledge, background knowledge, sentence or syntactic comprehension, understanding figurative language such as metaphors, similes, and idioms. These skills will be developed gradually during every year of learning English. As I've already mentioned, the whole word approach is based on teaching students to recognize core words as a single word instead of having them sound out phonetically. Speaking about this approach, we often use two terms: high-frequency words and sight words. And these terms don't mean the same. The term high-frequency words is used to name words that children and adults will encounter frequently in print. These words tend to be words that do not have meaning on their own. These words may be regular, as in and, or irregular, as in the. Or we say they can be decodable and non-decodable. It's essential that students develop automaticity as they read. And one way to do this is to help them read many high-frequency words by sight. Traditionally, when teachers say sight words, they are referring to high-frequency words that children should know by sight. Reading researchers have a different definition of sight words. For example, a sight word is a word that is instantly and effortlessly recalled from memory, regardless of whether it is phonically regular or irregular. A sight word vocabulary refers to the pool of words a student can effortlessly recognize. Okay, the synonyms with the terms sight words and high-frequency words are the Dolch and Frey lists. Dolch and Frey, they were both doctors in education and advocates of the look-say or whole language approach to teaching reading. Both said that phonics could be taught, but advocated teaching all the words on their lists as sight words, to be memorized as whole units. So, Edward William Dolch, PhD, was a professor at the University of Illinois from 1919 to 1940. His work was published professionally as he researched the areas of word meaning, reading, spelling, and the teaching of reading. In the 1930s, Dolch conducted research to find out which words were used most frequently. He came up with a list of 220 words in 1936 and published them in his book Problems in Reading. Dolch called these words service words because they were used most frequently in all writing, regardless the topic. These words are foundational for reading, and explicit teaching is essential since many of them are irregular and cannot be decoded with regular rules of English phonics. His list of 220 words consists of adjectives, adverbs, conjunctions, prepositions, pronouns, and verbs. He didn't include nouns in this list because nouns change with subject matter, school curriculum, and each child's individual interests. However, he did create a separate list of 95 nouns that were common at the time of his research. Dr. Dolch was a proponent of the look-say method of teaching beginning reading. He believed that reading instruction should begin by teaching children to memorize words based on their shape. Dr. Frey was a professor at Rutgers University in New Jersey for more than 20 years. He also worked in Africa, where he was a Fulbright scholar in Uganda and Zimbabwe. The term Fry words refers to the list of 1,000 high-frequency words compiled by Dr. Edward Fry in 1957. The list was an improvement of the Deutsch word list, first published in 1936. The Fry list contains 1,000 words and includes all parts of speech. According to Ritzters.com, both lists were based on secondary sources, but the Fry list was updated in 1980 to add words from a more recent word frequency count. The Fry words list is based on the American Heritage Word Frequency Book, whose 87,000 words are ranked by the frequency in which they occur in reading material for grade from 3 to 9. So actually, books for children were not analyzed properly. So the question is, which list should you choose? Here you can see some examples of both of them. Profound comparison was done. The first 100 words on the Deutsch list are the Fry 100 list, have a combined 130 words. So we can say there is a lot of overlap. 70 of those words are both in the Deutsch 100 list and the Fry 100 list. Only 9 words in the Fry 100 list are not in the Deutsch 220 service words and 95 noun words list. All words on the Deutsch 100 list first appear on the full Fry list of 1,000 words. So we can say they are interweaved, yes? So Deutsch and Fry use different sources for their words, which explains the slight differences in them. Deutsch looked at words that students in the kindergarten to grade 2 were reading, and Fry looked at words for the other student group of grades 3 to 9. Let's come back to the bestseller book, Why Johnny Can't Read. As I've already mentioned, the author, Rudolf Flash, blasted the American educational system for failing to teach phonics. Students were expected to learn to read by memorizing words. That disagreement over how to teach children to read, whole language versus phonics, got the name Reading Wars and even became a political issue in the US. It ranged through the 1990s. In 2000, a panel of experts came down firmly on the side of science. Shortly thereafter, the reading wars seemed to be over, and it looked like phonics had won. Phonics is a method of teaching people to read by correlating sounds and symbols in an alphabetical writing system. You teach students the letters of the alphabet and their sounds first. Next, children are taught to blend the sounds phonetically to form words, and then to naturally build vocabulary and increase fluency and comprehension. Children can begin reading within 3 or 6 months using the phonics method. There are 6 kinds of phonics instruction. There are synthetic phonics, analytic phonics, analogy-based phonics, onset rhyme phonics, phonics through spelling, and embed phonics. Systematic synthetic phonics can help all children learn to read, and it is especially helpful for children with learning difficulties. So it's considered to be the most effective way to teach reading. At a glance, synthetic phonics teaches children that spoken words are composed of sounds. The 44 sounds of English language. To blend sounds in a word to read. To listen for sounds in words to spell. All the different ways each sound can be represented. For example, the sound a, as in apron, can be spelled a, also like in pay, or AI, like in paid, can be also spelled like A like in apron, A like in eight, and so on. Irregular high-frequency words, we can call them camera or tricky words, which are essential to help children progress the quality of their writing and move on to reading full sentences. the sound first and then the letter name. So first, children are taught that each alphabet letter has its own unique sound. For example, look at picture 1. We can see sounds E, B, K. Once children have this concept, the logic is made a little harder. 2 or sometimes 3 letters can also come together to make a new sound. For example, SH make sh sound. I, G, H make I sound. The next layer of complexity is where you really start to see spelling improve. Children learn that the sound can be represented in many ways. For example, the E sound. It can be represented by EA, just E or double E. Finally, children will learn that a letter or group of letters can represent different sounds. For example, E, like the letter E sounds like E in bed and E in she. So, important question is also sounds or letters fast. This question has always been a subject of the debates and research for literacy programs designers and developers. It's highly recommended to start by teaching the sounds of the letters, not their names. Knowing the names of letters is not necessary to read or write. Knowledge of letter names can interfere even with successful decoding. For example, the learner looks at the word and thinks of the names of the letters instead of the sounds, and you can see that the word cat can be read like C-A-T? No, of course. What sequence should be used to teach letter-sound correspondence? Pennsylvania University researchers have their own view on that subject. They believe that letter-sound correspondences should be taught one at a time. As soon as the learner acquires one letter-sound correspondence, introduce a new one. They suggest teaching the letters and sounds in this sequence: A, M, T, P, O, N, C, D, U, S, G, H, I, F, B, L, E, R, W, K, X, V, Y, Z, J, Q. This sequence was designed to help learners start reading as soon as possible. Letters that occur frequently in simple words, for example, A, M, T, are taught first. Letters that look similar and have similar sounds like B and D are separated in the instructional sequence to avoid confusion. Short vowels are taught before long vowels. E, A, O, I are taught before A, O, U, I, okay? Lowercase letters are taught first, since these occur more frequently than uppercase letters, capital letters. In Montessori education, letters are introduced by phonetic sounds rather than letter names also. And they are not introduced in their order within the alphabet. Instead, they are introduced in an order that allows the child to make many words with the letters he or she already learned. On this slide, you can see the order suggested in the book Montessori Matters. Here you can see the order used in other Montessori schools. Casey Perelman suggests colored sets of letters, another way of introducing. Some Montessorians use one of the above orders, but first introduce the first letter of the child's name. Of course, that works best if the child's name starts with a simple phonetic sound, rather than a phonogram like ch. We are not Montessori teachers, but we can be. How I introduced? I started introducing letters in a certain order after visiting the USA. I got this list from the teacher of Smith Bridge Elementary School, Reno, Nevada. Here you can also see the order of sight words introducing. According to this order, I prepared materials and resources for work. You may find them on my blog page. The link will be provided. Actually, no matter which order you choose to present the alphabet to your students, make sure you have a thoughtful and purposeful plan for the beginning. If you are using a reading program, look ahead and note the sequence of letters being introduced and try to figure out why. The why behind their plan, okay? So, many English-speaking countries use synthetic phonics to help children to become better readers. In the Australian national curriculum, for example, phonics knowledge and word recognition is regarded as crucial for fluent reading. Rather than assigning an age or class grade level to specific phonics skills, they are classified by level. Phonics is closely integrated into the Bahamian English curriculum. Grade 2 students are expected to demonstrate knowledge of letter-sound relationship. For example, they should identify sounds associated with consonant blends, digraphs, and long and short vowels. Malta has 2 official languages, English and Maltese. The introduction of the UK phonics program to Malta in 2014 was welcomed and an important step to improve this situation with teaching reading. Also, because hundreds of different languages are spoken in Nigeria, English remains the official language of the country after independence, and all children are taught in English from their 4th year of school onward, no matter what is their mother tongue. Research on literacy programs in Nigeria has shown that synthetic phonics produce superior results. Pupils whose mother tongue was not English, who received phonics instructions, showed better reading results, better progress than English-speaking students who did not. The Singapore educational system is considered one of the best in the world, and the country had a reported adult literacy rate of 96.8% in 2015. The Singapore English language syllabus stresses a combination of bottom-up or synthetic phonics and top-down whole word reading strategies to combine together, and views phonemic awareness as an important predictor of reading success. The goals of phonic instruction outlined in the curriculum include the ability to divide words into syllables, to blend sounds, to segment words into individual sounds, that is also very important, to be able to make analogies from known words to other, to pronounce unknown words. The St. Kitts and Nevis Ministry of Education advocates the use of phonics for young readers and recommends Phonics Fast Foundation as a reference book for teachers. In the United Kingdom, there are 31 official validated, systematic, synthetic phonics programs that teachers can choose for work. The one that we know in Ukraine is Jolie Phonics. Letters and Sounds Framework is a guidebook for practitioners and teachers to provide language development through children's play and link learning from the Letters and Sounds program with all 6 areas of development. This resource suggests phonemic awareness curriculum. The curriculum is based on the following 110 games arranged in an order that research supported and classroom proven to lead to successful reading. Each game builds on the skills taught in the previous games, and the children should be confident on each of the previous lessons before they move to a new lesson. Children who complete this pre-reading curriculum will have a strong foundation for learning to read and will be ready to start a traditional reading curriculum on phonics and sight words. Phonics Hero. This curriculum includes 3 stages of phonics curriculum, like the basic, advanced code, and complete the code. These 3 parts span 26 levels of systematic reading and spelling, learning, and practice. Phonics Hero has 2 orders of sounds, one for children in Australia and Hong Kong, and another for those in the rest of the world. View your order. This free pre-K reading curriculum, Reading the Alphabet, was developed by Becky Spence, Master of Education in Elementary Reading from the USA. She has an amazing website full of resources for teachers. Most of them are free. I will be talking about them in the next part of the course. Fantastic Phonics is a reading scheme for schools and families with 60 printable stories. Fantastic Phonics is a Learn to Read complete 16 weeks intensive program, which begins at the beginning and assumes no reading knowledge. It comprises 60 engaging, humorous stories that gradually cover the phonics elements required for reading. There are detailed teacher guides for each story, multimedia and videos. Downloadable PDFs can be printed or photocopied at low cost, black and white. The program is free for 8 agencies and charities. Fantastic Phonics has been tested several times, especially successful in African countries. And here you can see a sample portfolio for an example of evidence of grade 1 student learning in relation to the achievement standards in Australia. The link for the details is provided. That's all for now. In part 2, we'll discuss some practical tips on teaching reading and useful resources.